I did. All right.
Okay.
Take it away.
Okay. This week's film is Vice, which is a biopic of the life and times of former Vice President Dick Cheney. It is a comedy of sorts, and I think it's well done, but it's a very slanted movie about Cheney's public life from the early 1960s, when he was basically near to well that had flunked out of Yale on through his vice presidency and beyond. This film cost $60 million to make. It earned more than $76 million at the box office, and the film was very well received by the film community. It was nominated for 8 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, Adam McKay, Best Actor, Christian Bale, Best Supporting Actor and Actress, Sam Rockwell and Amy Adams, respectively. Director McKay was also cited for Best Screenplay, I believe, yeah. And it was also nominated for Best Editing, and it won for it actually won the Oscar for Best Makeup. And I believe that that was in large part because of the transformation of Bale from a young Cheney to an older man. And Bale was also able to nail a Cheney's sort of very distinctive rhythms and his speech cadence, almost to the point where it was an imitation. And I think that helped build his character for viewers and enhanced his film a lot. One of the executive producers listed in the credits for this thing is Will Ferrell. And I think many of you might recall when Ferrell was on Saturday Night Live, one of his characters was a very funny, at least in my opinion, very funny and often coked up George W. Bush. And Sam Rockwell, who played George W. Bush in this movie, did not follow Ferrell's 41 characterization. Instead, he plays George W. Bush with an easy to get along candidate and a president who seems to be over his head at moments in the movie and his presidency. Now, one of the actors I was most impressed with in the movie was Steve Carell. Normally, I don't care very much for Carell's work, but his portrayal of Donald Rumsfeld, first as Cheney's Washington mentor, which is historically misleading, by the way, and then Cheney's loyal lieutenant when Cheney was the head of the Department of Defense in the Bush 43 White House, is really strong, and I think he steals a bunch of the scenes that he's in. Carell gives Rumsfeld a deviousness that makes his character leap off the screen at times and steal scenes. Now, when Cheney was first picked to be George W. Bush's Veep in 2000, he was first selected to lead the Veep search team, and they reflect that in the movie. And at the time, that was viewed as a bit of a surprise when George W. Bush then went ahead and named Cheney to be his running mate, because even back then, Bush, as the governor of Texas, had already earned a reputation as an intellectual lightweight. And Cheney, at that time, was seen by many in the political world as being the adult brought in to any potential George W. Bush administration, and he would bring some Republican gravitas to the administration if they got elected, which of course they did in a famous, exceptionally close vote. The other major misleading fact in this movie, and it's a big deal, I think, is the concept of executive unitary authority, which they talk about at some length. The movie implies that a DOJ lawyer and soon to be, and eventually a Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia and a Cheney political advisor, David Addington, was urging Cheney to subscribe to its concept. Now, Cheney did not subscribe to that concept until later. This movie makes it sound like that came to be in the 1980s and 90s. It was, in fact, Cheney didn't really subscribe to that concept until later, when he was the head of the Department of Defense for Bush 43 in the 2000s. And that whole concept of unitary executive authority applies to the chief executive being the center of all power in the executive branch of the government, not the entire government, as this film implies, and it's very reminiscent to what Donald Trump's trying to say now, that and which Nixon said back in the 1970s, that if the president does it, well then it can't be a crime. That's not what unitary executive authority means, but that's what Cheney and some others took it to mean back there. Another thing, when the Bush 43 administration took over in January of 2000, I felt it was very different than the previous Republican administration to Reagan and Bush's father, Bush 41. While the Reagan White House was certainly conservative, and the Bush administration as well, I felt that there was a sense of a Nixonian restoration that was underway and much more prevalent in the Bush 43 administration. And I think that time and decision to bearing that out, and this movie, I think, attempts to ratify that. I thought that the false ending in the middle of the film was clever. I'm not sure that there was anybody who actually saw this film when it was released in 2018, because it probably drew an audience of people of our age. I'm not sure that there was anybody that was not aware that Cheney's public service did not end, that it continued on after that break. Another clever part was adding the everyman narrator, Kirk, played by Jesse Plemons, and the twist that Kirk ended up dying and then becoming the heart transplant donor for Cheney has no basis in fact that I know of, but it was, a nice plot turn for the movie. Now, my biggest problems with this film are at the very end of it. Cheney, for no doubt, has had a major role in what's happened in the nation over the last 40 years, but the film's bid to blame him for everything from the wars in the Mideast, which he certainly has a responsibility for, to the border problem, to climate change, to the political polarization of the nation. To me, to lay that all on Dick Cheney here seems like it's a bridge too far. And even if you accept that Cheney is guilty, along with others, of creating those problems, there's the final scene of the movie. As you remember, the scene shifts to a political focus group where two participants get into a fight over politics, like we've all seen many places over the last few years, and it descends into a physical brawl. And then in another corner of this focus group, there are two women who start to wander, and they're not even paying attention to the fight that's going on 20 feet from them. And they start to talk about the movie Fast and Furious, and whether or not that's going to be any good. So, and I think, as it's been said by others, so this is not an original thought, it almost seems as if the writers and the directors are trying to remind the viewers of this film here while we're watching it that this is supposed to be the end of a comedy. And it seems like ending that movie like that was a distinct cop-out as far as I was concerned. I thought it was a really clever film. I liked it. I thought it was done well. But it definitely has a point of view, and I can see why some people don't like it. I know that Christian Bale, when he received his award from the Golden Globes for Best Actor in that year, he credited Satan as being his source of inspiration for the Cheney character. So anyway, that's my take on it. I hope everybody had a chance to watch it and be interested in what you think.
Mike, you talked about some aspect of the relationship between Cheney and Rumsfeld being misleading, the way something was portrayed.
Yeah.
What did they portray? And where did it depart from?
This is really in the weeds. This is really in the weeds, but Donald Trump may have been at that meeting with the interns, but Dick Cheney didn't decide there, along with the other guy that wanted to go with a Democratic rep, that I'll go with Rumsfeld. He actually went with I think it was a Wisconsin senator by the name of Steiger, and eventually got to know Cheney because Steiger and Cheney sat on the same committee in the House of Representatives. So they became good friends, and he was his mentor. But that was a vehicle to get them together in the film. That's not exactly how Dick Cheney started his internship in Washington. So, anyway, that's it.
I read that when Cheney asked Rumsfeld, "What is it we believe?" Somebody said that was absurd, but I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if that happened or not. There's a lot of people in politics that get stumped by that question when you ask them, so what is it exactly you believe? Because they're so far in the woods on policy. When you ask to pull them away and back off to 10,000, 15,000 feet, what do you believe? They'll fall back on just platitudes, and you never really get a decent answer. So Rummy could have very well just laughed and walked into his office like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, and there's no basis that I know of that it actually did happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Mahoney, why do you think this movie? Why do you think it was made? Why do you think it needed to be made?
I think it needed to be made because it was an indictment of the Hollywood left of Dick Cheney and the George Bush administration. There was one other film that's been made similar to this, and it's called W by Oliver Stone, and it was predictably Oliver Stone's take on the world. And when you look at who produced this, McKay also did a really what I'm told is a fine film called Short about the real estate and market and financial market. I haven't seen it, but I've heard things about it. That this was part of his worldview, that the wrong people are controlling the world.
Do you mean
you're talking about The Big Short?
Yes, that's him.
Mike, I had a question. I remember seeing a documentary about Cheney years ago, but I can't remember what it was and who did it. But the finale of it was that he became the first person from the military-industrial complex to take a position in the White House. Is that true?
Oh, I don't know. I think
there's probably been defense secretaries, but they were talking about.
Let me jump ahead a bit, because the movie you're going to watch next week, unfortunately for probably Jeff Arthur, doesn't affect him as much as it will the memories of most of the rest of you, is The Fog of War. Now, I don't know who's seen that, but there's somebody who came from at least the industrial complex, if not the military industrial complex.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. James Schlesinger was a Secretary of Defense. I don't remember his background. McNamara came from the Ford Corporation. And certainly, they were part of the military industrial complex. I don't think that would be fair to say that he was the first. It seems like over the course of our lifetimes, more and more people come either straight out of being former military that retire to a cushy job in a defense-related industry, and then get back into Washington politics, or come straight out of the defense.
But it is what Eisenhower warned us against.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, Eisenhower, it was in his last speech. It was very prescient about the dangers that would present. So,
Mike, I want to go back. You're talking about the way the movie ended, which was kind of dissonant from the rest of the movie. If the movie was an indictment of that administration and of Cheney himself. Did they pull a punch and take their own wind out of their sails by having that twist at the end and sort of a wink and a nod? Is like, we were just kidding.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good way to describe it. That they pulled a punch with this. They lay out. I mean, this is sort of a tragic comedy movie, and I think that they were simply trying to come back full circle and go, okay, well, remember, friends, we're trying to entertain you here, and they throw that focus group scene in at the end. I don't think it fit at all. The other focus group scene where they talked about converting the estate tax to the death tax, and what I thought was really effective. Using Frank Luntz for that. But yeah, I thought they pulled their punch and they bailed on the ending.
I'm trying to imagine Oliver Stone's treatment would not have done that. It would have been, an uppercut, not a pulled punch.
Yeah,
if he had been directing this movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I saw W, but I don't remember how it ends. So.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah. I'd be curious to know if the movie itself had focus groups that advised against landing a full blow and somehow turning it into kind of a like I said, a wink and a nod, like we're just telling stories here. We hope you're entertained.
Yeah, I mean,
focus groups about focus groups.
Yeah, and where that scene's placed in the movie, it wouldn't have been a problem at all to shoot something like that, to pull that punch. Or at the end of the movie, you're going to add what, 3-4 minutes at best to it. You're not having to rip apart the body of the film or anything. You just throwing a longer tag on the end of it.
If there was exit polling in movie theaters, I wonder what percentage of people thought it was going to be a glorification of Dick Cheney and some sort of honorarium to him, and it wouldn't have landed that way for them.
Oh yeah.
I guess when you call the movie Vice, you've sent a signal.
I mean, didn't it come out right after his famous shotgun incident?
Could be. That would have been a better ending.
That was in the movie, though.
Yeah.
So they would have had to put it in right away if that were the case.
Well, considering who did it, I mean, the point was to make fun of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way they illustrated that was quite surprising to me. I never envisioned that Cheney pulled the trigger on his shotgun from the seat of a car or an SUV. And I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I always heard that he was walking behind the guy, but they were both walking in a field or whatever when that happened.
That seems like to make a lot more sense than
Yeah.
the way they did it in the movie.
If you're walking behind the guy, how do you shoot him in the face?
You'll have to ask Dick Cheney.
Maybe it was the cheek, and it was the other cheek.
Yeah, all these questions.
Oh, there you go. Turn the other cheek. Yeah.
There might have been a grassy knoll involved.
Chris,
Now you're back to Oliver Stone.
Chris, what did you think of Mrs. Cheney's portrayal in here? I thought Amy Adams was really good, but I didn't really know who Mrs. Cheney was.
I didn't either, but I liked her role that she had, and I think she kind of guided a lot of things that happened. She had more of a role than I would have thought. She kind of came to her own power on her own, and yeah, I liked it. She surprised me.
Yeah, so
is that factually accurate as far as her influence on his life? Do you know? I mean, she did seem to have quite an influence over him.
Yeah, when they were in D.C., she traveled in her own political circles with groups like the Heritage Foundation and other groups like that. She was no lightweight.
So she Ginny Thomas before Ginny Thomas?
Yeah, and actually probably yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So if he was the adult in the room, she was the woman behind the adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
So I want to ask Gary Whitaker what he thinks about the trajectory of Cheney's character in here. Do you think it was a character development movie?
It was a makeup development movie. I know that.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I am participating from memory because I did not have time to rewatch this movie. I just recall it from the beginning, and I'm just trying to, with Mahoney's, explanation of how the movie evolved. I was trying to remember those things. From what I recall, there were other people that were trying to change his trajectory. I don't know that he was maturing or changing on his own, but it seems like there were a lot of forces around him that were, if I recall, they were trying to make him fit into certain narratives. Does that make any sense?
He'd been the controlling guy at whatever he was at Schlumberger or Halliburton.
Yeah.
Halliburton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was shaping.
So he's the
he was
big guy.
shaping narratives.
Yeah.
So was he really a college dropout and a drunk and getting in fights and all that? And his wife finally told him to shape up or I'm out of here.
Yeah, he flunked out of Yale.
So how did somebody like that get to be the CEO of Halliburton? Is it just who you know? Greasing palms?
Not what you know, it's who you know.
I mean, I enjoyed the movie, although
That's a good question.
It made me very angry, but not knowing how much of it is true and what's true and what's BS, it's kind of frustrating actually for me. But
what you described kind of sounds like W. Getting drunk, getting kicked out, having his wife tell him you better clean up. That was almost the same story.
I don't think his wife had the cojones though.
Well, when he left DOD, number one, he was the chief of staff for Ford, and that was kind of a moderate Republican administration. And then when he left the Department of Defense, that's when he goes to Halliburton. And given the times that he was at Defense and related to the defense industry, I mean the ability to make connections to a multinational, multi-pronged company like Halliburton is the world's your oyster there. Yeah, I mean you get lots of opportunity to meet extraordinary people, or at least they're well-placed people. If not, they're not extraordinary.
Pete, you've been quiet. What's on your mind on this movie?
Oh, no, Cheney's an interesting character, and obviously has had a lot of influence in the country. I just didn't personally care for the movie per se. I thought it had a hard time keeping me engaged, and the fake ending in the middle of it. I thought, all right, when was going to the kitchen. Not really. I knew it wasn't. Not really. I knew it wasn't the end, but so yeah, that was it. I appreciate the historical aspects to the extent that they're factually correct, but there you go.
I thought he was dead, actually. I was surprised. I looked it up, and he's not dead yet.
He's like 82, isn't he? Something like that.
Yeah. But he did have a heart transplant.
Stoner's an interesting political figure.
Yeah. Very much so.
But Roger Ebert hated this movie.
What did he say
On
about
what
it?
basis?
I don't know. He got it 2 out of 4 stars. He just didn't care for it. I don't remember now. It's been a while.
No, you're right. Whoever was writing for Roger Ebert, because this was in 2018, and I think Roger
Right.
Ebert died in 3 or 4. But
Right.
no, the person did not like it at all. I don't remember all the reasoning, but I thought that was interesting. They thought it was boring. They didn't like where they took the line from the Shakespeare about the bard.
Yeah, that was weird.
Just, yeah, I don't know what I learned because I don't know how much of it's true.
Well, I was wondering if we treat this as a comedy, which it has been termed, which things do we laugh at? I mean, there are a lot of different things about our society and about the way the political machinery works that are kind of ridiculous. And the old saying about legislation and sausage kind of comes to mind here, that the whole system doesn't function particularly well and produces some crazy stuff, like a college dropout having such extreme influence. At the same time, sometimes people just have a talent to rise to positions like that. I similarly, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to take out of this, but I did see that there was some kind of ridiculous things that if somebody told you this, you could kind of imagine it was a farce, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't laugh too much during the whole thing, that's for sure. I took it seriously as it was going along, except for a few spots.
I'm curious because Mahoney is so is so embedded in politics. Did you watch this movie the first time thinking, that's not exactly true, or that's not exactly, or as you said in the very beginning, oh, this is slanted? How did you absorb the movie, as entertainment or closer to pale documentary?
Both ways. The first time I watched it, just for the entertainment value of it, with a bit of an eye towards whether or not it was realistic. The second time I watched it, just a few days ago, I watched it a lot more critically, in terms of what was real and what was not feasible. And so the second time through, there are things in here that from being around politics for a long time, don't square up. For instance, there is there's like one scene where I believe Cheney is simply walking somewhere on the Capitol, and they go, "Oh, and by the way, he was a political consultant for a while." Well, that's where a lot of people who are in the business, when they are in that wing of politics, the consulting business, you learn the dynamics of politics and how to get elected. When you're a congressman, especially a congressman, all you're told to do is vote the way the whips and the party leaders tell you to vote, and then spend 10 hours a week over at the Republican or Democratic headquarters in D.C. On the phone raising money. And so, until you're there in politics, either in Jeff City or Topeka or Washington, D.C. Until you're there for 10 years, you don't even know where the bathrooms are most of the time. And so, I mean, they breezed by the fact that he probably picked up a lot of his political acumen from the time that he was a political consultant. And I mean, they just blow that off. Clearly, he had some political skills, and he had the skill to know the right people, or get acquainted with the right people, or be on the right person's side. And I mean, that just doesn't happen overnight. Otherwise, there'd be 435 geniuses in the House of Representatives, and there's not quite 435 now.
A little shy of that, yeah.
Zing.
Yeah, just a bit outside.
Well, I thought it was a good movie, Mahoney. I think it was a great pick. And do you have any words of political wisdom for us as we take on the primaries ahead of us here?
I think Joe Biden beats Donald Trump. I do. I
hope you're right.
Trump has a broad base, but the old saying in politics, man, it's a mile wide, but it's an inch deep. And what I mean by that, there are going to be some Republicans, and I think a lot of independents that just don't want 4 more years of chaos, and they'll get up to it. Hey, I think it's going to be a close vote, but they'll get up to it and they just go, no, we don't want to do this. And the other thing is people will hold their nose to vote for Joe Biden. I mean, he's lost his fastball too. I mean, it's just a terrible set of picks, just god awful set of picks.
So what do you think about Manchin?
I know
What?
Manchin?
Oh, I don't. I don't think that goes anywhere.
I didn't know if the big money was going to come out swinging after Super Tuesday.
Mike Bloomberg tried to do that 4 years ago in the Democratic Party, and I mean, you can't run any statewide campaign, much less a national campaign, or 50 statewide campaigns, which is what a presidential really is. From the get-go, you can't do it in March or April of the election year. I mean,
Right.
I mean, and people always look back. I was having this discussion with somebody recently. They said, well, in '68, Bobby Kennedy would have won the Democratic nomination, and everything would have been different. Bobby Kennedy was only won like 8 or 9 of the 14 or 15 primaries that there were. And he didn't have control of the Democratic machine. Lyndon Johnson still did, and he handed that directly off to Hubert Humphrey, and Hubert Humphrey always was going to be the nominee. You can't run. It takes a long time to build a political organization. You just don't go 1, 2, 3, let's go.
I mean, Ross.
Mahoney,
Ross
I
Perot
got
got
2
that.
questions. Mahoney, I got 2 questions. I know that the turnout at the Iowa caucuses was a record low, and so were the temperatures. Did the record low turnout have anything to do with the fact that people just don't like the choices, or was it just cold weather?
I think a lot of it was cold weather. I mean, I've been up there. This is the first time I haven't covered a Iowa caucus since 1980, I think. And I've been through a couple of really cold caucus nights, and but nothing like this 15 and 20 below crap that southern Iowa was having on on caucus night, and then you get up around Des Moines or over by Cedar Rapids or Waterloo, and then Davenport, and that's where all the votes are, even on a Republican side, and it's 20 below zero at 6 o'clock. There's just a whole bunch of people that are just not going to do that. So I think the weather had a lot to do with it, and I don't think people are very enchanted with their picks. I mean, I know folks in New Hampshire are saying this is one of the most boring primaries, even before DeSantis got out. One of the most boring New Hampshire contested primaries ever, because they just don't say there's any energy up there, which is odd, because I literally the times I went to New Hampshire, my favorite story is I was in the grocery store, in the checkout line. I don't know, buying like potato chips and probably a 6-pack of beer or something like that. And the woman in front of me and the woman that was checking her out got into a whole discussion about Social Security right there. And I mean, it lasted for, only a minute or so. But I mean, that's how engaged New Hampshireites can be, on the verge of their primary, and apparently it's not like that this year. So,
my second question is, if there was a legitimate health event that Joe Biden suffered, where doctors told him, you need to, you need bed rest, you need to retire,
25th Amendment stuff,
you've had a stroke or something. What does the machine spit out as a candidate? Or what's the hierarchy of, who's up next?
There would be a lot of pressure to make it Vice President Harris, and there'd be a lot of pressure to go some other way. I mean, it would be a really interesting dynamic on that. I mean, people would talk about Gavin Newsom, somebody in particular, but the fallback position, the later it gets, the more it becomes a Kamala Harris fallback on that, and then the Democrats are in a world of hurt, because I don't think anybody cares very much for Vice President Harris. I don't think anybody thinks she's presidential.
Okay,
temper.
so the smart money knows that she can't win. Where does the smart money go?
Newsom, I think they try to draft Gavin Newsom, or maybe they looked Debbie Stabenow from Michigan. She's got executive experience. She's in the Senate now. Trying to think of
How about Porter in California, Katie Porter? What do you think about her?
I don't know. All I know about her is what I see on TV, and that's not enough to make much of a judgment on it.
Yeah, that's not an endorsement on my part. I'm just curious. She seems to be in the public eye a lot.
Well, yeah, she's running for Senate there. So,
and what about was it the Wisconsin governor, Michigan governor? There was talk about her. Who's the Wisconsin governor?
Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Whitmer. Yeah, she would be on that list, because she's a governor. I mean, governors are a lot more close to the roles and duties of the president than any senator or congressman is. I mean, there's some senators that have been ex-governors. I don't like Stabenow, but Whitmer would be one of them. I mean, because they do the same job. They're chief executive of a political organization.
But isn't it?
Does Klobuchar have any appeal?
Who?
She continues to have problems with her own staff. I mean, she's got a reputation of being just terrible with her staff. I think she's pretty good senator, Klobuchar. But she goes through staff folks like Sherman through Georgia.
What
How is
about
anything?
Pete? Oh, sorry,
Who?
Mike. What about
Go
Pete?
ahead.
Buttigieg?
Pete McCluskey?
No, no.
Buttigieg.
If
Buttigieg.
nominated, I will
Oh,
not run,
oh.
and if elected, I will not serve.
I think he would have been the nominee in 2000 if he weren't gay, and see where that goes in 28. I don't think they'll reach to a Department of Transportation cabinet member. But he's interesting.
Isn't all of this spitting in the wind? Doesn't it have to be Harris?
Doesn't have to be. I mean,
There's a convention. You can go back
Yeah.
to the old convention.
Good luck.
I saw Newsom.
there are a lot of
on,
people.
I'm sorry. I saw Newsom on Bill Maher's show last Friday night. The first guest. I mean, he claims he's not interested. Is that just political speak? You think if like somebody genuinely came to him and said, "All right, we need you to throw your hat in the ring." You think he throws his hat in?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I
Have you
mean,
guys heard of Hillary Clinton?
yeah, there's that one.
How about Michelle? How about Michelle Obama?
She's having too much fun and
That'd be
making
the
too much
draft.
money.
Oh, okay. How much
Oh,
money is
wow.
too much money? Just curious.
Yeah,
Asking
I
for
wish
a
I
friend.
wish I
For a
knew.
friend. Asking for a friend.
No, I think I'm asking for myself.
So
Nice
in this movie, Cheney originally or initially supported his daughter, the Mary, who is gay, but then in the end, apparently he threw her under the bus. I wonder if that's how it really played out, or is
Yeah,
again, I don't know what in this movie was true and what isn't.
he asked the Bush folks, and it's accurate in the movie. Don't make me do this. If you guys got to say what you got to say, fine, but don't make me carry the water on it. Later on, he seemed to walk away from that a bit, but I think he's a dad, and in the end, loves his daughter. I mean, it's not the answer you wanted, but I believe that to be genuine.
Well, I mean, in the movie anyway, it sounded like Liz Cheney was going to lose in Wyoming unless she, said marriage is a man and a woman and no same-sex marriage. So,
She did. Yeah, she did lose that Senate race, and she eventually was elected as the congressperson from Wyoming. Wyoming's got so little of a population. They have 2 senators, but they only have 1 representative in Congress. So all 3 of them sort of function like senators. And yeah, she got beat. Liz Cheney got beat in that Senate race.
And the congressional race later on.
Yeah, but she did win. She was in the House.
Yeah, right. Again, nice job, Mahoney.
Much of the Republican. Good. Thank you.
That was one of those I always wanted to see. I never watched it the first time around, but I heard so much about it that I'm glad you picked it.
And we're doing the fog of war, huh?
Well, yeah. Well, next week from Palm Springs, the fog of war. And I'd ask you older guys, that's not Jeff Arthur. Who's seen it?
I've not.
Yeah. So look at it critically. I mean, it's I tend to think a lot of things are painted over in his mind, and it's all a straight interview. It's a documentary. It did win an Academy Award, not picture, but it's an interesting thing for those of us who lived through the 70s.
Yeah, now there's a guy that's got even though it, you said mentioned it's a documentary. There's a guy that's got a character arc.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Any other side picks? What are we watching?
Hey, I wanted to say
I watched.
I wanted to say thanks, Pete, for Fargo 5th season. Finally made it through that whole thing.
Yeah.
The ending, I talk about a set of endings. That one was unbelievable, but it was great. It's the only thing I've ever seen where they wrap up every single loose thread.
Yeah, John Hamm plays a marvelous villain as and I'm in sales, right? So I worshipped his character in Mad Men, the consummate ad guy, sales guy, but he nails a very bad in Fargo season 5 for sure. For sure. Yeah. You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Anybody know when the Bears starts again?
Bears out there right now on Hulu.
On season 2?
I know
or whatever the next one is.
Season 3?
3?
Oh, no, 3 hasn't started. No.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm just curious.
All the episodes are there.
He's been winning awards and.
Who's watching?
There was a movie that I know there was some buzz about, and I can't Salt something. The
Saltburn.
Saltburn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys kicked that around?
Gary, were you joking when you were struggling to say the title? You know exactly what it was, right? Or no? Right?
No,
Saltburn. Unbelievable.
It's a lot like your talented Mr. Ripley, I think.
Yes.
Except with a bathtub.
Yeah.
Only in spades. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was. I couldn't take my eye. I called it a visual earworm. I just kept creeping up on me. It's like, wow, what was that?
I watched that with Cecilia, and when it got to the bathtub scene, and that's all I'm going to say, the bathtub scene, Cecilia got up out of the chair and goes, nope. And started kind of like a car accident. You got to come back and watch it some more. And that was, in my view, second place of the most bizarre scenes in that movie. So, yeah.
The final dance was
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Enough spoiler alerts.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it,
there's a graveyard scene that ranks up in there too.
Yeah.
Which I read was that was ad lib, by the way, the graveyard scene.
Wow.
And then when the UFO and the aliens showed up, that was just too much for me.
Yeah.
And then Bambi walked in, and where did he come from? Where'd she come from?
I thought Bambi was dead. I mean, what happened?
Now, is that Bambi the
Wicked
stripper?
Witch was dead.
Yeah.
I watched a show called Lift. I think it's on Netflix. It has Kevin Hart in it. And it's a group of, what do I say, very intellectual people, but they pull off these international heists. And it's really good.
Is it a series, Chris, or a movie?
No, it's a movie.
Okay.
Yeah, and how Lift, yeah. They take $500 million of gold bars, how they get away with stealing it. And it's pretty interesting. Yeah, kind of entertaining. Doesn't take a lot of brain work.
Back to Fargo. What channel is it on? What streaming service? Where would I find it?
FX and Hulu.
Okay.
Hulu repeats
right.
them from FX. You can see them first on FX, but then Hulu, there's a delay of a day or whatever before they have it.
Was season 4 the one with Chris Rock based
Yes,
in
yeah,
Kansas
in
City?
Kansas
I
City,
never-
based Kansas, yes.
I never
Yeah.
made it through that one. Did they wrap that one up neatly too?
I mean, as much as they can. I mean, every season is its own
Yeah.
entity. There are some characters that will reference from season to season, but every season is essentially standalone. So
The 5 you thought was worth your time?
I think there. I mean, when we were watching 5, and then we were jonesing for the next episode, we went back and watched 1, 2, 3. We didn't watch 4 because I watched that not terribly long ago. Season 1 with Billy Bob Thornton is also outstanding.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
he plays a very bad man. Bad man.
Yeah.
So
What's interesting about the end, Whit, is it's a 10-episode thing, and it's really done in 9. And then when you're done, when you finish watching number 9, you go, well, what else could there be? And then every loose string you can imagine gets tied up in it.
Yeah.
That's what's
Nice.
impressive.
Okay. Everybody's like 40, 45 minutes each.
So yeah, I mean something.
Yeah, close to an hour
hour-ish.
sometimes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worth your time.
Anybody see
right.
Killers of the Flower Moon that hadn't seen it before?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's on Apple.
Mhm.
It's a little long, but I think it's going to haul in a few Academy Awards.
I don't know what access I have. I'm stunned that I'm able to do this from the middle of the Pacific Ocean. But whether I'll be able to stream anything or not, I don't know. I watched Fog of War. I'll try to, find it again and see if I can play along again. But it may be from memory. Like I said, I'm surprised that I could get here today.
You're clear as a bell on this transmission.
Yeah, you are.
Absolutely.
What's
Very
playing
cool.
on playing on your ship? Is it Barbie?
Nothing. Well, I don't know I haven't looked at the movie channel. Somebody was telling me about a movie. So they've got things on board, and I don't think they're satellited in. When I left home, I drive a Tesla. When I left home, I had 140 miles of range on my car. The temperature dropped to 0 in Springfield. When I checked in my car, I had 50 miles of range left. And I don't know if the battery got drained because of the cold weather or because of the cold weather. It was telling me, if you're going to drive your car now, don't expect much more than 50 miles of range. So I called our building supervisor and said, my car is outside, Joan's car is underground. I said, I need you to switch them, move my car underground and plug it in, move her car up on the parking deck. And he said, okay, I'll just get the keys to your cars. I said, well, that's the problem. The Tesla doesn't have a key. You have to start it either with your phone or you have to have a card that I have on me. So from the middle of the ocean, first of all, I'm talking to the guy. Secondly, from the middle of the ocean, I opened the car, started the car. He was able to drive the car underground, park the car. I opened the trunk so he could get the adapter for the charger. And then I opened the charge port so he could charge the car. So from somewhere between Honolulu and Bora Bora, thanks to Elon Musk's Skylink satellite stuff, I was able to open and start a Tesla built by Elon Musk. And I figured the whole reason he put the Skylink thing up there was so I could start my car. But
That's right. He did that just.
It was amazing.
And
Yeah.
That is amazing.
The Ukrainians needed that bandwidth, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. I tried to get off as fast as possible.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Anybody else for recommendations?
I had
So
a,
depicts anyone.
a conversation
Has
with
anybody-
am I muted? No. I was talking to somebody about the Ripley film, and he said that there's a parallel between that and Strangers on a Train from Hitchcock, which I didn't identify, but I thought that might be an interesting comparison for people who had time to go back and watch that classic.
The only other thing I've seen recently that, current is Poor Things. Has anybody seen that?
No, it's still $19.99 as a rental. That's you got to go to the theater just about for that one.
well, there's a theater in town where you can join. It's a kind of an arts theater, and you join. So once you join, the movies are free. So and the popcorn's free. It's sort of a subscription thing.
Gary, I got
It's
on
got
the
a little-
website of your, I got on the website of your ship. The midnight movie there is Moonstruck. By the way, I read.
Oh, boom.
Well,
And
first
the, and
of
the
all,
director
it wouldn't-
and the director just died today.
Really?
Oh,
is that right?
Yes. Jewison, Norman Jewison.
Well, Pete, I promise you, if you were on this ship and they showed a movie at midnight, nobody would be in the theater. I don't think anybody in this ship stays up past 9 o'clock.
Oh, really?
You have to understand the demographic of the ship.
But they have walkers to make it easier to find your seat, right?
There are a couple of walkers, but I got to tell you, the people on here, I look around and I consider myself one of the younger ones, but this is the most fit old crowd I've ever seen. They jam the gym. They're waiting lines to get on the treadmills. There's a track that goes around the outside of the ship that's a quarter mile, and it's full. It's the healthiest, most active, bunch of people, old people I've ever been around. And it's pretty impressive. But they're still not up past 10 o'clock. I can promise you that. There's no late night disco here.
Okay, I'm out of here.
It's 8:01,
John,
folks.
as well.
All right.
All right,
Nice
thanks,
job,
Michael.
Michael.
Good to see
see you
everybody.
next week.
All right, take care.
Yeah. Have a good trip.